All right, guys, we started to get into the birth of MTV. I was actually watching the History of Heavy Metal documentary, believe it or not.
Cool.
And yeah, it was awesome. And they got up to the 80s, and they were crediting two bands with MTV. On the metal side, it was Def Leppard. And on the other side, the more pop, melodic side, it was you guys,
Right.
the guys on the posters, the guys on the cover of the teen magazines. I mean, you got into a little bit before, but how surreal was it? What was the vibe? I mean, you just kind of burst, and you were it on MTV at one point.
Yeah, well, we didn't. We never went out with that kind of that as a goal or something to achieve. It just turned. We were the only people, it seemed, who had were investing that kind of energy in the making of videos, and were willing to completely immerse ourselves in the video world and to do this and to be television personalities as much as radio personalities at the time, and it was very, very exciting.
And Girls on Film, obviously the first big video you guys did. Back then, a little risque. I mean, like today, everything gets on the internet. You'll see everything, the sex tapes and all that stuff. Yeah. Girls on Film was a little raunchy for back in the day.
It was then, wasn't it?
It wasn't an accident either.
No.
There wasn't someone secretly filming. You know where that came from, actually, is we... First time we came to America, we played a lot of clubs. In fact, the first place we ever played in America was a club called Spit here in Long Island.
Yeah.
Apogee. There you go. We went around and we played these tiny little clubs, and we saw this thing was starting to happen. There was big video screens over the dance floors, and they were playing all these films. Sometimes they were a bit sexier than other ones. Sometimes they were very abstract, but none of them had anything to do with the songs. We thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could just put a video up there that could be hooked into the mix of the song? So we wanted to make an extended video for the extended mix of Girls on Film. And as it was only really going to be shown in clubs where people had to be 18 or 21 to get in, it gave us a little more leeway to make it a little more restricted viewing.
All right.
And so that's sort of how the idea came about to do something like that.
The guys from Duran Duran here, Simon Le Bon, Nick Rhodes, the new album, Red Carpet Massacre, the single Falling Down. We're going to listen to that in just a little bit. You mentioned the word mix and extended versions. I read somewhere that originally, and no disrespect, the album, when you first started, your first release in the U.S., wasn't that huge, and then you guys did dance mixes and off the charts.
Is that the case? I'm not sure that that's actually...
Was it anything true. Like that? That's what I read on the internet.
Well, what we were doing with dance mixes at the time was finding new territory, because a lot of rock acts or pop acts hadn't really made dance mixes at that time. It was very much sort of black music, and we just liked the idea of our songs being played in clubs so that people could dance to them. And it seemed so logical to just make a mix and see what happened. But we instead of cutting up bits of tape and sticking them back together, or as you now do it in a computer, we rearranged the songs and actually played them. So for the drummer, it was quite difficult, because he'd have to play for about 8 minutes.
We wrote and recorded 12-inch versions.
Yeah, absolutely. Very different way of doing it. I mean, now you do it all in a computer, obviously, but they were very successful.
Just to set the record straight, I think what happened with Duran Duran and the way that we took off in this country was our first album did okay, not great. It was Rio. That was what really boosted us into the stars.
Well, when I look at you right now, I think of you on the edge of the boat. I mean, when I think of Duran Duran, I mean, in all seriousness, people think of Duran Duran, I think the first thing they think of is you on the edge of a boat in the ocean. Right? I mean, would that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's a very powerful image. Yeah.
And the filming of that video, was it real? Were you actually like speeding along in the water?
On a boat with the sails up, no engine going.
So you do it all with green screen now.
Yeah, nobody would ever do that. Yeah, we had a camera. It was an old 1920s, 1930s built ketch called I can't remember what it's called now. People think it's called Rio, but it's not. But it had a bowsprit, had this wooden thing that stuck out the front, and we managed to get the cameraman right at the end of that, and I came back. I was just a little bit further back.
I had an idea to get a person that sells boats here on Long Island and put you on the edge of a boat, but they weren't going for it here at the station. You wouldn't have liked that too much, I don't think. We could go through every song. Obviously, you've had a slew of top 40 hits, but one other thing. A View to a Kill in the mid-'80s, big movie soundtrack, James Bond movie, and now everybody wants to get their song into a movie. I mean, what was that? Was it a little taboo at the time to be making movie songs
themes? Bond themes always had this real kind of kudos and a mystique around them. And the whole Bond brand was something which excited us. I mean, I know John and I read the books when we were kids, and we were quite into the films, and we liked all the different incarnations of Bond. Probably Sean Connery was all our favourites, and we always thought that it was so English, and it was like associating yourself with minis or something. It was essentially British or English or whatever you want to call it.
Mini skirts, you mean?
Yeah. And so there was nothing wrong with associating yourself with something like that. You were lucky if you could.
It was very exciting. I mean, to sort of blend the Duran Duran sound with the James Bond theme.
Yeah, it was a great song, number one hit.
And also, we were always thankful that we got the title of View to a Kill, because I think it's a really great title. I mean, could have got Octopus.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
Simon Le Bon, Nick Rhodes, Duran Duran. We're coming back with the new single, Falling Down, and the Phathead 4 questions that if you'd be so good to answer, we'll see if you can get through, all right?
Yeah.
All righty.